Welcome back to Good Morning Kenya. We do continue with the day's discussion, and today we get to close the show with our Women at the Forefront segment, all about our women who are doing fantastic things in society just to empower another woman out there, regardless of whether it is small or big or phenomenal. It is all about acknowledging those things that some of our women are doing to champion for other women. And of course, that is what we are about to get into. And today we have with us Dr. Jane Makaha, who is an obstetrician gynecologist. She's also a philanthropist, and she's very big on reproductive wellness. She'll be telling us a bit about her journey and how it has been so far. But in the meantime, you can talk to us using the hashtag Good Morning Kenya on Twitter. Our SMS number ever remains 20154, and we'd love to know your name and where you're watching us from. So please do leave a name and location. You can also go onto Twitter. The official hashtag, as I said, is Good Morning Kenya. My handle is the Jane Boy, and our official station handle ever remains at KBC Television. Just to to put a face to the name that I had mentioned, we have Dr. Jane Wakahe with us here in studio. As I mentioned, she is an obstetrician and gynecologist, as well as a reproductive wellness coach. Karibu sana daktari.
Thank you.
We are so glad to have you this morning.
I'm happy to be here.
Now, you have a career that spans over 3 decades, all in the reproductive health area.
Yes.
Take us back to when it all started and how things were back then.
I went into university in the year 1973. The country had 5,000 university students in total. And we went into medical school, which used to be in Choromo. We used to live in the main halls and walk to Choromo through bushes. It was great.
Did you choose to go into this field of reproductive health? I mean, it was still unachukua kenye umepata?
Once one finishes medical school and becomes a doctor, then you choose to specialize into something.
Okay.
And I thought delivering babies was the most fantastic thing.
Why was that?
It is like partnering with God.
Yes.
Just seeing a life happening and coming out is amazing.
Now, looking just over the years, you eventually did start your own practice. You went back to school to get more education in the same line with reproductive health. Yes. Over the years, how have you seen the reproductive health changing and growing and evolving over the years?
It's very good because now people are informed. They ask a lot of questions. Earlier on, it is like what the doctor said was law. Yeah. But these days, yes, we encourage people to ask questions, and then they get a lot of a lot of information from the media, and they ask, and it's very good. It's interactive. Yes.
Now, let's just quickly focus on some of your areas of expertise. You know, you did specialize in reproductive health, but you also choose to focus on a few things more specifically. And let's start with, gender-based violence, and especially the survivors here in Kenya. Yes. Tell us a bit about your first interaction with, gender-based violence survivors, and how it got you to a point to where you are championing for them.
After I finished obstetrics gynecologist and practiced for many years, I felt that I needed some further education. So I went back to school and did another degree on public health. And my thesis on public health was checking on hospitals, how they're able to handle gender-based violence. So I crisscrossed this country, everywhere, coast, west, north, south, and checked on hospitals on how they are able to handle. And in the process, I got to see some of the gender-based violence people.
And what was the reality that you interacted with?
That indeed our hospitals then, let me say then, I haven't rechecked after 2010, but our hospitals then were not able to handle. And except for Kenyatta Hospital and Moi Teaching Referral Hospital, all the rest could really not handle gender-based violence in a good way.
In a good way.
So some recommendations were made, and I'm sure some have been implemented.
So far?
Yes.
So that's in regards to the management of gender-based violence victims?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
And now we'll be getting to some of those challenges in a bit to just understand the situation. Yes. But let's quickly just talk about, the whole aspect of infertility. Yes. It's also an area that you have narrowed in on. Yes. And when you talk about infertility, we're living still in a time when it's still considered a woman issue.
Yes, yes.
Your thoughts?
That infertility is a very devastating something in our culture. When people, especially when they get married, they want to have babies.
Yes.
And it becomes a very big problem if a baby is not happening. and usually the blame is put on the woman. The truth of the matter is that 50% of the time it's not the woman, it's the man. He could be having his own issues. He could be having no sperm count at all. He could be having low sperm count, or he could be having sperm that doesn't move. And then a sperm, it needs a sperm that is healthy to fertilize an egg. So part of it is male, part of it is female, and in fact, a third of it is both of them. Both have a little problem here and there.
All right. So it's about, we still have a long way to go in regards to the conversation around infertility,
Yes.
in as much as it was still a problem back then, it's still a problem now,
Yes.
and it needs to be addressed.
Yes.
And what more do you feel we need to do to just sort of make it a conversation that people can comfortably have? Because it's still one of those conversations people turn a blind eye to. I'm at get to bedroom. What more do you feel needs to be done to just shift the conversation around infertility?
That it is sometimes normal
Yeah.
not to be able to have children, and that it is not somebody's fault that they are not having children. It is good to find out why they are
As
not
opposed to
having
blame
children,
the partner.
as blaming the partner. And it's good to find out the both, and especially the mothers-in-laws should stop that poking around and blaming the woman, because it could be their son. Yeah.
So that conversation needs to really happen.
It needs to happen, and both need to realize
Yes.
that a baby is made by two people, not by one person.
Yeah.
And that it could be, in fact, something very small. It could be like the man is going to the sauna and steam all the time, and in that
Steaming
process
away all the
cooking his sperm. So it could be something very small that
Yes.
it could be sorted. So it needs that both of them, if somebody is having normal sex for about a year, and normal sex I mean like 2-3 times a week for a year, and they are not using any contraception and they intend to have babies, then it is that they should be checked, both of them.
Both of them.
Not
So
one of them.
it shouldn't be still considered a woman issue, as it sadly is. And of course, these conversations can only start with you and I just actually redirecting ourselves to that conversation and being open to all the possibilities that do come with infertility. Now, still linking infertility to another area that you're very big on is now contraception.
Yes.
That is also another big area that is very gray and also still left to the women.
Yes.
You know, just comparing to how times were back then and now that, you know, contraception has also evolved, how are the two situations different?
This time, then it was good, I must say, because contraception were prescribed by the doctor.
Yes.
These days I hear off the counter, buying off the counter.
Yeah.
And yet, especially the hormonal contraceptions, there's so much harm they can do to somebody. There are so many things we need to check on somebody to make sure that they are able to take a particular hormonal contraception. So it was good then in the sense that nobody sold contraception
Just over the counter.
Over the counter.
Yeah.
We needed to check somebody and follow them up and see how they are reacting to their contraception. Now, everybody just goes and picks whatever they want to pick.
And what harm does it come with, you know, just going and picking and deciding I want the implant, I want the pill, I want this and that without even consulting an obstetrician or gynecologist?
Let's kind of focus on the pill, the combined pill, which has
the one that you
both
take daily.
estrogen and progesterone.
Okay.
It comes in the way of swallow, and it comes as a patch, something somebody patches on the skin. Now, that one contains two hormones, the two female hormones, progesterone and estrogen. Now, if perchance somebody, and this is the breast cancer month, if perchance somebody is prone to getting cancer of the breast, and they load their system with estrogen, then they are going to sort of hasten that process.
They're predisposing themselves to...
Yes, to changing themselves into a cancerous situation. If they have not been checked that they have any lumps, because before one takes the contraception pill, one needs to be checked that their breasts are okay, that they have no lumps. If they are not checked and they have some lumps, the estrogen will make those lumps grow.
Wow.
These days we are also seeing a bit older girl not having children but on contraception. If a girl has fibroids, then the estrogen will grow the fibroids faster. So there are many things we need to check on somebody to decide that they can use or cannot use that particular mode of contraception.
All right. So my young girls, please listen to this. Don't just go out there and, it's very affordable, by the way. You can just go to any chemist and tell them, I want this, I want that, without prior consultation, because at the end of the day, you could be doing more damage than good for yourself. So try and consult, go see an obstetrician or a general physician who has that medical expertise to advise you before you move forward with this. Now, you have also mentioned that, we are in the Breast Cancer Awareness Month. It's October. It's a fantastic month for so many things, mental health, even cybersecurity awareness month is happening this month, October. And, you're also very big on breast cancer and cervical cancer. Tell us about your first interaction with, breast cancer and cervical cancer in your over 3 decades of practice.
Womanhood, like I say, is my forte.
Yeah.
So I've studied women. I went to do gynecology in the year 1980. That's when it started. I went back to specialize in obstetrics gynecology. And the place I specialized in Kenya is Kenyatta National Hospital. And there is no shortage of very, very advanced cancers. Cancer breast, cancer cervix. In fact, I remember cancer cervix ward, we used to almost avoid it because of the smell. There was so much, I'm sure there is still so much there, that so I've interacted a lot with people with breast cancer, people with cervical cancer. And the issue about cancer is that once it is advanced, there's not much we can do. And yet for all cancers, there is a way of catching it in time to deal with it. So as much as we should build cancer treatment areas, I think what we should focus more on is cancer prevention. That the whole country should be geared towards preventing all types of cancers that can be prevented. Because believe you me, once somebody has cancer, advanced cancer is not a good thing. And yet, the word cancer is not a death sentence. People will fear to go and get screened because I do not want to be told that I have cancer. And yet, it's not a death sentence. If caught early, it will be cured. So my take is, please, get screened. Get screened. Yes.
And that actually just brings us to some of the challenges that are facing almost everybody on a reproductive level, because we all get to that age in life where you become sexually reproductive, and you want to grow your family, you want to do things here and there, but you're not able to due to some challenges. And now, just looking from what you have seen over the years in your practice, let's start by looking at the preparedness and management that is offered in our medical facilities in terms of managing reproductive challenges. How is that? What is the state of what you have seen over the years in terms of the lack of preparedness and the facilities even that are within our hospitals?
Well, we have two extremes. We have the private hospitals where, name it, it is available. And then we have...
At a cost.
At a cost, at a big cost. And then we do have the other hospitals where things don't run so well. Reproductive health, and especially infertility, has not really been taken that seriously. And it's the right of every couple to actually have a baby, whether biologically or by adoption. So it should be that our hospitals, our institutions are able to, without bias, follow people up and help them along, and finally say whether you can reproduce or you can't, in which case you take up what the next step is. Yes.
Go for the next available option. Yes. Now, another challenge also comes in regards to the training of our medics. Over the years, you have gone back to school to just sharpen on your skills to help in your practice. Do you feel like, some of our young, especially in the recent times, some of our young medics do go back to school, and some just settle with what they have, and it limits them in terms of, being capable enough to address some of these challenges that are reproductive, and some could be sorted out in very early stages, as opposed to just waiting because you do not have that medical expertise that you could have gotten if you went back to school.
Let me talk about my time.
Yeah.
The government used to pay me to go back to school.
Yeah.
So they used to sponsor me. I had a full salary as I was a student. So I had no reason to not go back. Now, currently, I hear they have to sponsor themselves. And sometimes you decide what is more urgent. Is it to subspecialize? Or is it to stay with what one has? So at this stage, there will be different cadres. And even the people who are not subspecialized, who are general practitioners, in fact, they get to interact with so much that maybe across the fields, if they only would get to where, if I see this, I refer to so-and-so. If I see this, I refer to that specialty. It's not that everybody must subspecialize. It's that we must know our limits. And know, like, if I saw a sick eye, I'll not treat a sick eye. I'll refer to an ophthalmologist. So if the general practitioners would, even if they don't subspecialize, would get their fields proper and refer to people, then it would be okay.
Then it would be okay.
Yes.
But in most cases, do you feel that is what they do?
I'm not sure. They are not answer that one. But yes, I get a lot of patients referred to me. So I can say they do get referred to me, but as to whether that's a general practice, then that I dare not say.
But going back to school does help when it comes to the management of certain conditions.
It does.
All right. Now, let's just quickly move along the conversation, focus on this initiative that you have recently started. It's called the She Chooses to Live Initiative. Tell us about the story behind this.
The story behind this is cancer cervix. Cancer cervix is the one cervix that a woman doesn't have to get. Cancer cervix is brought about by something called human papillomavirus, which is an infection.
HPV.
And once somebody gets infected with human papillomavirus, and if it persists, in most cases, just the cell immunity, one's immunity will kick it off. But if the risky human papillomavirus gets there and persists, then they will change the cervix towards cancer. Now, it takes many years. It takes 10 to 20 years for when the infection actually persists in a woman before they actually become cancerous. So there are stages that one goes through, the cervix goes through. And every other time it changes into this, every other time it changes into this. So we have 10 to 20 years to actually see that it's not, that this cervix is going towards the side of cancer and actually deal with it before it becomes cancer. So that's why I'm so very passionate about cervical cancer, because no woman in this country need ever get to the stage of cervical cancer, even early cervical cancer. And if at the worst we get it at the early cervical cancer stage, then we can still deal with it. So, but the main thing is that cervical cancer is almost 100% preventable. Yes.
But you find the biggest challenge in regards to it being preventable is that screening culture. We still do not have that frequent screening culture. Why is this the situation? From your interaction with women in your practice, what are some of the reasons that we give in regards to not even going for this screening annually or 3 years, depending on the time frame that you suggest?
Well, it's that many women just do not women, people in general, will not go to hospital if they are well.
I'm
going to get screened. Mama Boga out there had better be selling Boga than coming to be screened. So one of the things is just awareness that somebody should be screened. They are not really that aware, and She Chooses to Live is wanting to create that awareness in fullness everywhere, to sing the story that it's preventable. So awareness is key. Then, of course, those who are aware are shy about it. They do not want to be exposed. Sometimes they are shy about who is going to look at them because it's in the private parts. They are shy about who is going to check them up. Some are afraid that it will turn out to be cancer. So if I had cancer, let me just die without knowing and dying faster, which is not the case with cervical cancer. Cervical cancer is that you can get it before it becomes cancer, and then even if it is early cancer, it can still be treated. So there are many reasons why women will not go for screening. which is very sad.
It's very sad.
They should also go. And also maybe, I must say, maybe even the facilities may not be easily accessible enough, or the main hospitals of the government, the level 4s and above, level 4, 5, 6, are able to screen what we call VIA and VILI, which is very good because it will tell us that there is a problem here.
Okay.
But as to whether women from various places will be able to access that hospital is the question. And is it should be offered on a daily basis? It should be that it is really published around so that people will know that if I go to a certain hospital, I'll be screened for this. And it's fortunately it is free in the government hospitals. So it should be that everybody is accessing it. But the question is, are there enough such places where women can go, and are women aware enough? And what is the attitude of the people in the hospital that are doing the screening?
I know we are in the Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and there are, screening happening both for breast and cervical cancer, which are the two forms of cancer that are the leading forms of cancer that are, attacking most women. And there's screening happening all month long in regards to this, and it's free. Now, speaking of awareness, we are at the forefront in terms of awareness. I know for most people, what you don't know, you are afraid of. We are afraid of the unknown. So maybe somebody is wondering, what does this pap smear entail? How is this? What happens when you're going for one of these screenings? And I'd just quickly like for you to maybe help us better understand and help our viewer better understand what goes into the screening when you're going to get a pap smear using TV-friendly language. Yes. A basic overview of what you should expect when you're going for cervical cancer screening.
I'm a gynecologist, and I believe that saying the face or saying the vagina are the same thing. Yes. They are all organs of the body. So let's say this, that when a woman goes for pap smear screening, they should go when they are not having their menstrual periods.
Okay.
So at least a week dry. They finish their periods and they are dry for a week. Then they go to a medical person. And what will happen is that they'll be made to lie down without panties, and something we call a speculum will be inserted into their vagina, all the way to the point where we are able to see the cervix inside, because the cervix is a bit deeper. And when we see the cervix, that's when we either do the VIA, what is done in the government hospitals, or when we do the pap smear. And it's not a painful process. Maybe it's a little not intrusive. I'll not use the word intrusive. It's a little, you see too much, maybe. People feel uncomfortable being viewed like that. But it's not, the comparison is, what is better? To have that done and you are declared okay, or to have stuff coming out of the vagina and somebody has to actually check when there is cancer in there.
Okay.
So it's a good thing to be screened. And that's what goes on. So we take something. If it is the VIA and VILI, you are told right there whether they find any problem and whether you need to go further for pap smear. If it's a pap smear, then we take the cells and we send them to the laboratory, and after some days we tell you how it is.
All right.
Yes.
So I believe from that you are better positioned to understand it is nothing complex that you ought to be afraid of.
No.
It's just about getting the sample to just try and see if there's any cancer cells, and it's better to have it done before
the cancer comes.
Before cancer comes.
It's just a question of privacy. As long as there is privacy,
it's okay.
Good.
Now, also breast cancer screening is a whole other field, but for our women who are out there who might not be, close to facilities where they can be able to get screening, I believe there are simple techniques which you can do from home, just sort of be able to detect any lumps that could be potentially cancerous. A very basic procedure when you go on how to go about to just feel for lumps.
Yes. I wish I had a body to demonstrate. Anyway.
Yes.
Once a month.
On self.
Once a month after periods. Then if somebody has lumps, that's when they are biggest. So like the day after your periods finish, that's when to check for lumps. if one has reached menopause, then pick a first, say a day of the month, maybe the first of the month, and one checks. I want women and men also. Breast cancer happens to men, and when it happens to men, it's really nasty.
Yeah.
Very, very bad. It's a bad disease on men.
So even men can go about with this self-checking technique?
Yes.
All right.
Yes. So the main thing is that one needs to know themselves.
Yeah.
So get naked and get in front of a mirror and just look. And look at how the breasts look. Look especially that the skin is smooth all over.
Even. Okay.
That there is that the nipples are kind of at the same level.
Okay.
Normally for women, many women, the left breast is usually bigger. So if you find it's a little lower, no problem. So they should be basically at the same level. The nipples should be popping out. There are some women who they have got inverted nipples.
Yeah.
So those ones not to worry. But for other women, nipples should be popping out, and the skin should not look like the peel of an orange anywhere. So just look.
Like you can see the pores.
Like you can see the whole little holes inside.
Around the skin on your chest area.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, once you have stood in front of a mirror and looked, then one needs to do their arm like this.
Stretch them over your head.
Stretch them over their head. And this time they are still looking. And what they are looking at is how the breast is moving up and down, because a normal breast will move up and down. Even a man's breast, because of the pectoral muscle, it will move
shift of the muscles. Okay.
up and down. So it should move, and they should both be moving. There should be no breast that is stuck on one side. After doing that, if one is going to check the left breast, then they put their left arm up.
Over the head.
Over the head.
All right.
Now the breast is half the chest, the whole breast. It comes from this bone called the clavicle bone, all the way to the middle of the breast, and actually all the way to the axilla, to the jegeke. That's why that's why somebody has to lift their arm like this.
All right.
And then with circular motions, they do with the hand.
The palm.
The palm, no, the fingers, but straight, straight back.
With your palms and fingers stretched out.
Then they do circular motions all over the breast, everywhere. And what we're looking for is something that feels like a bean or a pea. So you do circular motions all the way to the clavicle here, to this bone, and all the way across, all the way to the axilla.
All right.
You make
under the armpits.
Under the armpit.
Those of us who might be having a hard time understanding some of these terminologies.
Under the armpit. So you check everywhere. You check with circular motions.
And your hand has to be absolutely flat so
it has
feel
to be
any
flat.
lumps.
Now you might feel some things, but those could be the ribs. If you feel a hard thing, just check again and see if it's the ribs. After doing that, then it is wise to
repeat on the other side first?
No.
Not yet?
On the same breast,
okay.
One goes from a distance and presses to see if something will come out of the nipple. And then again a triter goes on the same breast. So this way and that way.
Okay.
You see, when we are doing this, we are checking for masses that are in the breast itself, in the breast material. When we squeeze like that, we are looking for the pipes that carry milk, because they also can have cancer. So we are looking for cancer in the tissue and cancer in the milk pipes.
So when you potentially have any cancerous cells, there is some product or discharge that might come out, especially if you're not breastfeeding and if you're a man.
Yes, you are allowed to have milk coming out. You are allowed to have clear liquid coming out. But if somebody sees anything pinkish or blood, or something that looks like pus, please run to the doctor.
All right.
That could mean that the ducts are there. So once you do that side, then you go on the
Repeat
other side,
on the
once
other
a month. Now, that self-examination is not enough. It needs that it is also accompanied by a doctor's checkup, at least once a year.
All right.
And any other investigations that the doctor will want to have done.
So that is a simple technique that you can do at home. And remember, it's also for men. So our gentlemen, don't think that this is only supposed to be for women. You are also prone to breast cancer in as much as you feel that, those structures have no purpose whatsoever. You are also prone to breast cancer, and it's good to just be safe.
Yes.
Prevention ultimately is better than cure. Now, for our young ladies, what would be the recommended age when it comes to getting this cervical cancer screening? At what age are you ready, or is your body ready to go for this screening?
As there's no age limit. As soon as somebody is sexually active, as soon as they've, and when I say sexually active, I'm not saying that they have penetration sex. I'm talking they have their genitalia have touched anybody else's genitalia. They have heavy petted. They have played around.
Any form of sexual interaction.
Yes.
All right.
If that has happened, then kindly 6 months later, get yourself start screening.
All right.
Yes. So there is no real age limit. If you start being sexually active at age 10, we have a mother who is 9. If you start at that age, by age 20, you could be having cancer cervix.
All right.
So as soon as somebody is sexually active.
Now, also when it comes to parents talking to their children about having these conversations with children from home, is this something that you recommend?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Yes.
And how should parents go about this? Because we are also not sure, how do I even initiate this conversation? Will they understand? How would you suggest to go about this age-friendly conversation about, your body, your sexuality, and all the changes that are bound to happen, especially for boys and girls separately before you put them together?
It's not difficult.
You are a medic.
Maybe that's the reason. But like I said, maybe I've been cultured to know that every organ of the body is exactly like the other one, and everyone has its use. There are some that must stay hidden because they are private. But that doesn't mean that we don't talk about them. In fact, I'm feeling very happy with the Ministry of Education because now they are calling the vagina and the penis in school. Because we have to unmask that system. And it's not in the darkness something. It's something that we need to talk to our children, talk about the different types of external genitalia of the boy, of the girl. They're totally different. Why some pee like this, like I was very unhappy when I was young because I couldn't just go to the roadside and
stand
do
and
it.
pee.
So but it's needed to be understood, and the parents have to do it. Yes.
We shouldn't shy away from it anymore because kids know a lot these days.
Yes.
And it's better that you be the reference point as opposed to them learning something out there. All right. Now, when it comes to just looking at what you have done over the years and also what you're doing with this initiative, She Chooses to Live, what is it that you would love to be your legacy, looking at your journey, that you want people to know this is what Dr. Jane Wakahe did?
I think the main thing is that some women got to know in time. And many women got to know in time and avoided cancer. I think that's my biggest request.
Yes. That
would I be an instrument in letting knowledge be found that we do not have to suffer cancer. It's such an undignified state of cancer when somebody has cervical cancer. You don't want anybody with that indignity. So if it is possible, I would wish to have women not get cervical cancer, to have women not die of breast cancer, and basically all other cancers that can be prevented.
Yes. And what would be your advice to our young women, our young girls, even our men as well, when it comes to this coming together and fighting some of these forms of cancer that are completely preventable, as opposed to just sitting and waiting and then being reactive as opposed to being proactive?
Can we screen? All of us. Can we screen? Can we preach screening? Can we make availability of screening? If you are a man and you are the money holder, can you give your wife some money to go and get screened? It's not a waste. In fact, it is so cost effective to catch it at the screening time than to wait for it to manifest, because the minute it manifests, it costs extremely
So
much
more.
and it will not bring good results.
There you have it. So let's try and build a screening culture. Let us go for these medical checkups. You know, we are not cultured to take ourselves to hospitals if you're not ill. So sometimes just take yourself to hospital, go get checked. It's good to know and prevent, as opposed to try and cure when you know the damage is already done. Well, that is what we have been speaking about. We have been speaking with Dr. Jane Wakahe, who's an obstetrician gynecologist. She's also a philanthropist, and she's very big on reproductive wellness, all about helping you better understand your body and how to go about taking care of it, especially dealing with the reproductive organs, because it's still an area where, you know, we Africans, we still don't talk about it in public. So, you know, we need to start having these conversations. Remember, breast cancer and cervical cancer are the two forms of cancer that are leading in terms of mortality when it comes to women. So we need to just sort of talk about these things and shift the conversation. Just looking at some stats that were put out earlier this year, 33 out of 100,000 women have breast or cervical cancer, and 22 of those 33 die as a result of this cancer. So why should we be losing over a third of a certain sample over something that we can do something to help prevent? So as you do what you do, empower another young girl to go and get checked as soon as they are able to. And our men, help our women as well go get checked. Thank you very much, Dr. for sharing with us about your journey and your medical expertise.
Thank you.
We absolutely appreciate you.
Thank you. Appreciate
That brings us to a close of Good Morning Kenya. Thank you so much for being with us from the beginning. We absolutely appreciated that you chose to start your morning with us right here on KBC Channel 1. We do have another fantastic show lined up for you tomorrow, so be sure to join us from 6 a.m. all through till 10 a.m. for nothing but the best of breakfast shows. My name is Jane Makaha, and on behalf of the entire GMK crew, we wish you a lovely day. We have a news check coming up in a bit. I can see Safina Cheng already on the other side of the studio, so keep it here to catch up with that. Have a lovely day. God bless.